What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh video. And this is going to be a bit different from the other videos I've had on the channel because in this video I won't be featuring a duel. I'll just be featuring how you can play duels for yourself. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the website that I use to play the games that I feature on my channel, Dueling Book, as well as how to actually make matches in the Format Library Discord, which is a place where you can play like Yu-Gi Kaiba format, which I've featured on the channel, as well as a bunch of other formats as well. And they've got a very interesting sort of ranked ladder and system for matching up with people. So I figured I'd give sort of an explainer, just in case you've never used Dueling Book or Format Library before and have been wanting to sort of jump into playing some games with people. So, first, Dueling Book. It's a website, duelingbook.com, and it is just a free-to-play manual Yu-Gi-Oh simulator. So, to register, you just need to register a username, a password, and an email, and they'll send you an email, and you'll confirm your email, and then you'll have an account. And you'll be able to play. So, I've already registered, I've got an account, and I've logged in. So you can just click Duel, and once you do, you'll receive a menu here. There's the duel room where you actually play the duels, the deck constructor where you can build decks, you can customize your profile, you can look at your past duels with the duel records. So I think the most important thing to start with is just the deck constructor. Deck constructor lets you build decks to play games, and this deck featured here you'll be seeing a bit later as well. This is the deck that I'm going to focus the next video on. But if you want to make your own deck, all you have to do is just click New Deck, and you can type in a name for it, New Deck. And it can take a second to load, but now you've got your new deck thing, and you can just search for cards to add to that deck. So let's say we want to add Pot of Greed. Well, there's a Pot of Greed. We can add that to our deck. Let's say we want to add Raigeki. We can add that to our deck. And you'll notice that there are a bunch of cards that are from throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. So like if you're just playing Yu-Gi Kaiba, you're not going to be able to add these other cards. So that is something to keep in mind, that you've got to stick with the cards of the format that you're playing with. And a way that can sort of help you, to realize which cards are in what format is there's a way you can sort by release date. So when you're typing in a card, like let's say we're going for Dark Hole, you can type in Dark, and you'll see that, it will sort them so that the earliest cards appear at the top. So, all these cards are legal in Yu-Gi Kaiba format until you get to sort of Dark Destruction. And then after that, Castle Dark Illusions from the next set, Metal Raiders. So you can't play with that. But this can sort of help you figure out which cards you can play with. Also, you'll notice that there are cards with variant art. So like Dark Magician has a bunch of different art from across the game's history. And you can use any art style. It doesn't really matter if you want to use the really classic one or if you want to use like the black and white one or whatever you want. It's all there for you. A bit of a difficulty that you can run into is if you're trying to add multiple copies of a card that is actually limited or banned in the modern Yu-Gi-Oh format. So for instance, card destruction in the modern day is limited to one copy. So you can only play one copy of it in a standard modern deck. So, but in Yu-Gi Kaiba, you can play two copies because it's only semi-limited. So let's say that you wanted to add two copies of card destruction to your deck. When you went to add the second copy, it would say limit reached. So you want to be able to build a deck that's legal for the format that you're playing in, even if it's not legal in the modern format. And the way you can do that is you can click this bypass limit checkmark there, and that will let you add more copies than you otherwise would be able to. So that's how you add cards to your deck. You can also add cards to the side deck by dragging it down there like that. You can add cards to the extra deck. Let's say we want to add a Flame Swordsman. You can put that there like that. And it's pretty straightforward in that way. You can also sort your cards at any time by just pressing the A to Z button. And you can also browse through the different decks you've made by just clicking on this little scroller here, and you'll have access to all the decks that you've made. You can also import a deck. So, well, let's not actually import now, but if you've downloaded sort of a Dueling Book deck file, you can import it to get it immediately into your deck collection. You can export a deck. So, like, let's say we go back to Worm Control. We can click Export Deck, and that will give us a nice link that we can use for later. And this will come up later, so keep that in mind. You can also set a deck as a default, so that way when you go to the duel room, that will be the first deck that you have available. You can also clear a deck to just empty out your deck to let you start fresh. You can rename decks. You can delete a deck from your collection. And also, when you're building a deck, you can save it or save it as a different name. And that's pretty much the deck builder. Very easy to use. Oh, you can also sort by like monster cards, by typing for the monsters, by typing for the spells, things like that. There are a bunch of little features up here that you can sort by, so that can be useful as well. But anyways, now that we've covered that, let's show how you actually get to a duel. So you can leave the deck constructor and go into the duel room, and you'll see the deck that we've set as default just appears right here. But if we did want to change that, we could click on a different deck in our collection and have that be the deck that we're going to bring into a duel. But you'll see a bunch of different, like, rooms here. So a bunch of different potential duels that are in progress now. So if you're playing like a Yugi Kaiba format duel, you'll be doing a duel in unlimited, unrated. Or I guess potentially traditional as well. But most people set them up in unlimited, unrated. And if you want to make a room, all you have to do, host a duel. There are many different options for this, but you'll do unlimited, unrated. You can do a 2 out of 3 match there. And you can add a dual password if you want to make it exclusive. You don't want anyone just popping in. You can make a watch password if you don't want anyone just watching. You can add notes to the thing, like this person added Edison format to theirs. And you can also change it to a classic style, which will have the pendulum zones outside of the back row. Doesn't really matter for our purposes, but it is something that if you like it aesthetically better, then you can switch to classic mode. When you host a duel, you'll pop up there, and if people join the duel, their names will pop up here. You can click them, accept them to start the duel, reject them just to kick them out. If you don't want to go into the duel anymore, you can click cancel duel. And if you want to join someone else's duel, you can just click on the duel that they have set up. We're not going to join any duels here, but it is something that you can do. And if you want to watch a game, you just click watch on the mode here, and there are plenty of different games that you can watch in all these different duel rooms. But that's the basic features of Dueling Book. So this is just the basic system that a lot of people use to duel in this format. There are other free simulators like EDO Pro, which you can use as well, which is an automatic simulator, so it's a bit different. But given that the main group of people that I know of that play Yugi Kaiba format are on Format Library, and given that they exclusively pretty much use Dueling Book, I figured I'd give a short little tutorial. Now that I've quickly gone through how to build a deck and set up a duel on Dueling Book, let me talk about actually finding matches on Format Library. Okay, now we're in the Format Library Discord, specifically in the Yugi Kaiba channel. I will have a link, an invite link to the Format Library Discord if you are interested in joining it yourself to play games with people here. And it's very easy to join it. It's a public server. And most of the time, duels getting set up will happen in this channel. And I just want to note that anything that I say about this specific channel will also apply to the other various channels for different formats in this server. So if you want to play a different format instead, you can apply the same sort of thing to those. But basically, if you want to get notifications when someone pings players who might be interested in a given format, you can go to that format's channel, type !role, and just enter that into the channel. And that will give you the sort of format player role. So I've already entered role in this channel, so I get notified whenever someone @, Yugi Kaiba players. And that's one way that people set up duels, where, occasionally people will just, @ Yugi Kaiba players and be like, anyone want a duel? And someone might say, yeah, and then you can join a duel that way. So you can press !role, enter it into the channel, and that'll give you the role. If you want to drop that role, you can just type in !role again, and that will drop your role. So that will remove the Yugi Kaiba player role from you if you so wish. So that's one way to set up a game in the channel. Another way to set up a game is, you'll notice that there's this thing called Retrobot, which is just a bot. But if you message Retrobot and you type in !rated, then it will bring you to a direct message here, and it will ask you what format you want to play in. So if you want to play in Yugi Kaiba, you can type in Yugi Kaiba just like that. And then it'll ask you what deck you want to use. So if you've used decks before, you can just if we want to play a Stall Mill, which we had done before, we can just type in a 1. But if not, then we can press 2 to submit a new deck. So in order to do this, we would, go to our exported deck link that I mentioned earlier, and we'd paste it in here, and we'd press enter, and that would then join us in the rated pool. And when that happens, it would then notify all the Yugi Kaiba players in the channel, and it would, so let me see if I can find one of those notifications. Yeah, it would do a message like this. It would say @Yugi Kaiba players, somebody joined the Yugi Kaiba format rated pool, and then they would, in response, be able to message the bot !rated, submit their deck that they wanted to use, and then the bot would match the two players up, and they'd play a game. So those are the two ways that you can sort of sniff out duels with other people, just with random people in the server. And as a note, that will generally, if you use the rated bot, you will be playing a quote-unquote rated duel. And what that means is this duel will count towards your ranking on the duel ladder for the format. So each format has its own sort of ladder, and, people play games, and that affects their record. And there is a leaderboard. If you're not cool with that and you don't want to do that sort of thing, you can also specifically request to people, does anyone want to play an unrated game, which will not affect your standing on the leaderboard. Honestly, I don't think that the leaderboard matters too much. It's just sort of there for a fun little thing. But no matter where you are on the leaderboard, it as long as you're having fun playing the games, that's what matters. If you do play a rated game, however, then you'll play a game like normal, and then whoever loses that game will report to the channel that they lost by typing !L and then @whoever they lost to. So we can probably find one of those. Yeah, so for instance, I recently lost to Deozomf. And so since I lost, I typed in the channel !L @Deozomf, and that got logged in with the system. I know all this sounds very complicated at first, but if you do just want to play some simple duels, it's as simple just as asking people, anyone want to play. And all this other stuff is kind of secondary. You don't really need to worry about it. And people are generally just pretty chill, no matter what your rating are, no matter whether you're playing a rated or unrated game. People are just pretty chill and just want to play. So I highly encourage anyone who's been watching my videos and been like, man, this looks really cool and fun, and I really want to play this stuff, but I just don't really have anyone to play with, I highly encourage you to join the server, play some games with people, pick up the Yu-Gi Kaiba player role, because it is very fun. I think this is a very fun format. And if you don't want to join a server to, find people to play with, if you maybe just have your own personal friends that, you feel like you can play with them and stuff, then you can still use Dueling Book. And just as a note, if you take too long on Dueling Book on a tab without doing anything, it will log you out. But Dueling Book is a very good simulator just for very casual things. And you can just play with friends on that either way. But I know that this was a bit different from my regular Yu-Gi Kaiba format content. But I wanted to put it together just in case people were watching my videos and wanted to play in this format but didn't know how, or didn't know how to find people to play with. So I hope that if that applies to you, I hope that this video is very helpful. And I hope to see you in the server and maybe play some games against you. It's a really fun format, and no matter what format you're playing, I think it's very fun. But if you already knew all this and it doesn't really apply to you, then don't worry. I'm going to be back to regularly scheduled content tomorrow, so you'll get a video then. But I hope that this was helpful for at least some of you. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything that I missed that people want to fill in the gaps on, please mention in the comments below, and I'll try to answer the comments as best I can. But until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.